him singing the song. All right, welcome back to the show. Amy Jacobson here. John Anthony in for
Hello.
Dan Proft today. Dan will be back here
Thanks
for the
for
rest
having
of the
me.
week. Oh no, thanks for coming in. It was a perfect day. I think we've gone through the crime reform bill more than any other station,
Yeah.
TV or radio,
Yeah.
this side of the Mississippi.
Yeah. And got into specifics, too,
Yep.
not just glossed over the bill.
Right. And now, speaking of Bill, we're going to talk about Bill Gates because he won't go away.
No.
And he thinks just because somebody has money, they think they could tell the plebeians what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, did you hear what he did last week? He
Of
said,
course.
you know what? Now with these different variants, we might need a third vaccine shot. Shut up. You're not an epidemiologist. You're not a virologist. You're not a doctor. You're a dude who's rich.
Right. I'm so glad Elon Musk passed him up as the richest man in the country.
And also, listen to this. Bill Gates now says that the U.S. must move to 100% synthetic meat.
What?
Yep, that's what he's pushing now, too, besides that third vaccine.
Because of flatulence?
And Diamond and Silk, no, we don't want to kill the animals. Diamond and Silk, oh, they responded.
Don't be messing with our meat, because you know we love to eat. We grill it, fry it, shake it, and bake it, and eat it with our teeth. Yum, yum. Don't forget the seasoning salt, the hot sauce, or the barbecue sauce to top it all off. Don't mess with the cow, because you ain't down. Don't be messing.
That's pretty good, huh? And with that, we welcome back to the program Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, and he joins us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Good morning, Mr. Moore. How are you?
I'm just fine, Amy. Hi, Dan. Nice to be on with
Well,
you guys.
it's John, but
John.
Dan, Steven.
crazy.
Oh, it's John. Oh, it's
Yeah.
not Dan.
No, that's all right. Dan took a day off, so we've
Dan's
been
better
blessed
looking
to have
anyway.
John Anthony with us today. So
Hi, John.
what
Hi.
is
Thank you.
this? What is this move? Or am I putting you on the spot here? For synthetic meat? What is that?
That is meat which is made from plants, which is not meat, because meat is made from animals.
Right.
So they are two different things. One breathes carbon dioxide, the other one breathes oxygen. But probably one of the most interesting things I tweeted out, I got a lot of feedback on it, is does Bill Gates know that cows can digest cellulose, which we can't do? And like cows can eat straw and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
cellulose is basically straw,
Okay.
grass. All plants have cellulose in them. And cows can digest that because they have 4 stomachs. And in one of those stomachs is some friendly bacteria that have an enzyme called cellulase, which is able to digest cellulose and turn it into food. So cows can turn cellulose, grasslands, into milk and meat, which we can't do. So actually cows add to the food supply. And the food supply is an important thing, the amount of food. So there you go. That's what Bill Gates doesn't seem to understand.
And he's also, he wants to achieve zero net emissions by 2050.
Oh, that'll be easy. Yeah, no problem.
Well,
And,
Sounds like
just
you got
park your car, never travel on an airplane ever again, and, don't heat your house if you've got gas coming in a pipe to your house. And actually, you have to cut that pipe off so that you can't cook your food on gas anymore. And the electricity that's produced by gas and coal will have to end, and these people are against nuclear power and hydroelectric energy at the same time, even though it is not carbon dioxide emitting. And then they forget to notice that plants use carbon dioxide as their main source of food. And it's good to have carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and there's not as much as there used to be now. And I prove that in my new book, Fake Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom, available on Amazon. And I want parents to buy this book and read it first so they can help their children with it, but their children will understand it if they're more than grade 9. And especially now when most of the schools are closed, this is a good time to read a book that tells people about the 11 chapters on 11 issues, all of which are about fake scare stories that we're being told by the left primarily, the activists, the media, the politicians, and the scientists, all of whom have skin in the game. And the thesis of the book is that almost all the scare stories are based on things that are either invisible, like carbon dioxide and radiation from nuclear plants, or are remote, like polar bears and coral reefs, and things in the future, half these scare stories are about things that haven't even happened. And so how can anybody check whether it's going to happen or not by looking out the window? No, you can't. And you can't point in the corner and say, look what the CO2 is doing over there, because you can't see it or touch it, smell it, hear it, taste it, or anything.
Yeah. Hey,
So,
Patrick, so basically what he wants us to do is he wants us to eat the Impossible Burgers for life. That's basically what he wants. And that's horrible.
well, you know, I've actually eaten a veggie burger or two, and they're not a bad thing.
Ugh.
But the idea of banning meat is the stupidest idea. What kind of a dictatorship are they trying to put us in here?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with eating meat? And then they say, well, it has a carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Well, for Pete's sakes, yes, that's what we breathe out.
Right.
Maybe we should ban humans would be another way of removing CO2. Because every time we breathe out 40,000 parts per million of CO2, which is 100 times what it is in the air. That's because we take in oxygen, combine it with carbon, which is the food we eat, and then breathe out the CO2. And the CO2 is what the plants want. So it's a perfect cycle. This carbon dioxide oxygen cycle has been going on, let's see now, since animals evolved. That would be in the 2 billion year range.
And what are we doing to ourselves now that we're wearing masks?
Oh.
Well, we're just breathing a fair amount of the CO2 back in again, but we don't have to worry about the CO2. It is not toxic. They've got you thinking plastic is toxic. They've got you thinking CO2 is toxic. And all of this is part of the war on fossil fuels, because people not necessarily realize that nearly all the plastics are made from fossil fuels. So if you want to ban fossil fuels, you're also not going to have any plastic. And people think, oh, well, that would be fine because plastic is bad. Look on your desk. Look in your house. Look in your car. If you want to ban plastic, that's the end of those things.
Yeah.
You know, so it is so unrealistic and so stupid. You just have to call it stupid.
Yeah, and you talk about scare tactics. What actually happened in Texas? Because we're hearing all these different stories that Texas they opted out of they went at it alone. Texas, I personally, I think it's a political ploy to go after Texas because Texas has always been the left's dream to take over back again. So what actually did happen in Texas?
What happened in Texas
with
is
the weather?
Most of the windmills froze up, so the fact that the wind was blowing didn't produce any electricity. The other thing that happened is they've got so much wind and solar there now that they've ended up relying on it when it's available. And so the gas plants and the coal plants and the nuclear plants that are able to produce power 24/7 most of the time, especially the coal plants, because they have their fuel supply on site, and the nuclear plants, when you refuel a nuclear plant, it's good for a couple of years. So this is the backup. But because when wind and solar comes online, you have to shut off these other sources, they become more expensive to operate because they're not operating as many hours and therefore not earning as much money. And so then it's a tendency of the owners of the system to eliminate as much as they possibly can of these reliable forms of energy.
Wow.
Because now they are more expensive than they used to be. The other thing that happened is the gas plants are not able to run 24/7 if there's a cold freeze like that, because they don't have their gas stored on site. They have their gas coming in a pipe. So if there's a frozen problem with the pipe, the gas gets cut off. But the main thing that happened was the solar and wind were gone from the system. And the system simply could not get up enough energy to provide the vastly increased load. This was a much heavier winter load than normal. The summer air conditioning load in the southern states is the biggest load, whereas the winter load, when you're not running AC, is not as heavy because
Right, but it was 5 below in Dallas.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of the heat in buildings is provided by gas coming direct to the building, but the air conditioning is provided, of course, only by electricity. And that's basically a nutshell of it. But the problem is these blackouts are going to get worse and worse the more wind and solar they put, And AOC, I don't know where she gets this idea. She said that Texas would have been fine if they'd adopted the Green New Deal,
Right.
which basically means going almost 100% wind and solar, which is actually physically impossible if you want to have power on the grid. And it would have made, I mean, it'd be a nightmare. I mean, it can't happen. But they're pretending it can because they live in a complete bubble. They have no idea how electricity even works.
All right. She doesn't even have a garbage disposal. She doesn't know what that is. But isn't it that couple, like how much is alternative energy used in Texas? I thought it was just 10%, and then the rest came from, nuclear plants and all that.
Yes, but at certain times, the wind and solar is up to 25%. But the fact is, a lot of the times it's 0% because it's at night and the wind isn't blowing. So we cannot build an electrical system based on unreliable, intermittent technology. And this whole thing would never have happened if it wasn't for the subsidies, for the tax breaks. They're called tax credits. So General Electric, for example, builds jet engines that use fossil fuels, but then it can invest in electric turbines for wind, and it can write the costs of that against its profits on jet engines. So it's a really good deal for business to go into these technologies from a tax point of view, never mind the subsidies they get. And then the third thing is even the most insidious, is called political mandates, which always have a nice name. But what it really means is that when the wind and sun are available, the utilities have to buy it, even if it costs more than the alternative reliable sources. And so that is the problem in a nutshell, and it's all a bunch of propaganda. They keep saying that wind and solar are now competitive with coal, but that's because they don't count the cost of having to have a coal plant built to back up the wind and solar when it doesn't work.
That's true. So when I was in the legislative body here in Illinois, I sat on the energy committee. I had 3 nuke plants and a lot of plastic, and I had one of the largest energy footprints in the state. I had the largest in the state. So when you say that, I mean, a lot of these political mandates. I went one-on-one with a solar individual, and they hated my guts after that because they were lying about bringing in $100,000 jobs, and I questioned them about the at what pay level, and when it came to the point where we learned like 80,000 of them will be low-level jobs. That's another lie that they push as far as these clean energy jobs will pay a lot of money. And when you look at oil and nuclear energy, which is the cheapest, most safest form of energy, what are your thoughts about that when it comes to how much people are getting paid for these clean energy jobs?
Well, it's not only that. Like John Kerry flippantly says as he flies around all over in his private jet, that the oil and gas workers can go and build solar panels.
Yeah.
Well, first off, that's not their skill, and second of all, they're all being built in China these days. What are they supposed to go to China and take a wage of a Chinese worker over there and leave their families? I mean, it is really the height of arrogance that is coming in to power, and I'm afraid the situation is degenerating. I'm afraid for Western civilization at this point. I mean, the lies that are being told on the media now are just unbelievable. And people sitting in their homes in their easy chairs watching TV, if they watch CNN and MSNBC and NBC, they are getting like 1% truth and 99% untruth. That's just the way it is.
I'm a former watcher of that, and I won't even turn them on now. All right, Patrick Moore, tell us the name of your book again, please.
Fake, Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom. Those are in the future. But the fake, invisible catastrophes, they're saying there is a climate emergency. That is so ridiculous. The climate is no different now than it has been for the last 10,000 years. Sometimes there's extreme weather, and Texas just experienced a nasty blow of that. But then they try and say that cold is caused by warming. You know, it is totally without substance. It is a scare story. It is not true. That's what people have to realize. In my book, in language that a non-scientist can understand, and anyone from grade 9 up that has a decent command of the English language can understand the logic in my book. It's all laid out. No other book has done this before. because so many scientists are not capable of writing in common English because they're trained in all these words. And so I know the difference. I've been working for 50 years as a communicator in the environmental movement, and for the last 30-odd years, I'm an independent environmentalist, ecologist. I have a PhD in ecology. I have an honorary Doctor of Science from North Carolina State. I've been a recognized scientist. I have the National Medal of Honor in Nuclear Science and History from the Einstein Society, given in Albuquerque every year. So I've got the knowledge, and I've got the ability to put it down in a way that people can understand it. So it's easy. It's $7.50 for a Kindle on Amazon.com, and the book costs more because it has 100 color plates with graphs and photographs and illustrations to give people who are not necessarily familiar with deep science, give them a real understanding of these issues. Everywhere, as I say, from carbon dioxide to polar bears to nuclear energy to the walruses leaping to their death because there's not enough ice left in the Arctic, which was in fact an attack by about 20 or 30 polar bears. The whole thing has been distorted, and Sir David Attenborough, the great BBC narrator, he's totally lying to us about so many things, and it's all documented well in the book. And I hope people will read it because they will get a different impression. And I have a feeling that the body politic is going to change in a positive way and recognize that tyranny and emergency is not the right way to run a country.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Patrick Moore, thank you so much for coming on. Always a fascinating conversation.
Thank you, Amy. Anytime.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
Oh my goodness, it is amazing. Within the first day that I started taking the 3 capsules, I felt a difference in my energy level. I've never